I'm Tom with Midwest Native Skills, and this is the first time we're filming on our new phone. So, hopefully the quality is going to be a little better than the iPad. Welcome to our every other Thursday Facebook Live. For those of you it's the first time, just briefly let you know we run a survival school here in Northeast Ohio. Have a full line of classes. You can see a full description at survivalschool.com. Some of our upcoming classes, we're having a full 6-day class in about 2 weeks. We have a moonshine making class July 3rd. It's a half-a-day class if you're interested in making gasohol, since moonshine making is illegal, but it's the same process. So we'll show you how to make the gasohol, and what you do after the class is your own business. We have an edible medicinal plant class coming up in July, and we just added a brand new, we have a weekend survival class mid-July, and we just added a new class in August, a honey wine making class, mead wine making, mead and honey wine, same thing. We just added that. We have 2 new instructors for that, so that'll be a real interesting class, and it'll be really in-depth. They run a meadery here in Northeast Ohio, so that should be a good addition to our lineup of classes. If you're watching this, I'd like you to write in or text in. We'd like to know who's there so I can give you a shout out to say hi. If Doug Meyer is listening, I want to congratulate him. He just finished and got the first copy of his new book on blowguns. So that'll be out shortly. So we want to give Doug a plug, and that's a real accomplishment. So if Doug's watching, congratulations. That's pretty cool. Doug's one of the leading blowgun makers in the country. And sometime I'd like to have him on our Facebook Live if we can. But tonight we're going to be talking about a stove. This is a stove you can make in your backyard. I have some bricks here I got from Lowe's. There's 33 of them. They don't necessarily have to be this size. They could be larger. The stove can be used in a survival situation if you happen to come up on bricks in that situation. If you have an electric stove at home and you have an extended power outage, you don't have a grill in your backyard, you need to cook dinner, you could put this up in about under 10 minutes and you could have a great cooking stove. It's just fun to make if you want to cook some things in your backyard, maybe even to impress the neighbors. So I want to show you how to make it. I want to show you 2 designs. One uses a small piece of metal and the other uses nothing at all except the bricks. So I want to show you how that goes. Let's get started. You might see this by some names. This falls under the main overview category of rocket stove, and they call it a rocket stove because the sound it makes. The way the air flows, it's almost like a blast furnace, and it makes the sound of a rocket. I heard a lot of stories about how this came about, but one of them I heard is that in World War II in Germany, the concentration camps, the Germans wouldn't let the inmates collect large amounts of wood, but they would let them collect small twigs like this. So they devised a stove that would use small twigs like this and burn the twigs down to almost fly ash, get all the use they could out of them. And hence, that's one of the stories I heard that was the origination of the rocket stove. So you have your bricks. First thing you have to do is take one of your bricks and split it in half. Now, I split it already, but I'll show you. It's pretty easy to do. What you need to do is take the brick, if this was a solid brick, and you need a hammer. Could use a screwdriver, but make sure it's not a claw hammer, the kind you use for pulling out nails. It needs to have a flat, straight edge on it. So if this is the brick, what you would do is you'd score at the halfway point and just go back and forth about 20 or 30 times. Flip it on its side, score it. You want to make a mark right at the halfway point all the way around that brick. If you had a screwdriver, same thing. You just make that mark. Then what you would do to that brick, you would take your claw hammer and tap very gently right along that line. You turn it over on its side. Do the same, back and forth. Do all four sides. Once you do all four sides, you get a little more aggressive with your tapping, harder, and eventually it does that. It cleaves right in half. And as you can see on this brick, it cleaves pretty much straight and right in half. So you need to break one of these bricks right in half. That's all we need the hammer for. Okay. First thing you need to do, the first design I want to show you, pretty straightforward. Now, I should tell you, you can make this directly on the ground if you want. We're doing this, it's been raining here in Cleveland for the last 2 days. The rain just stopped about a half hour ago. So if you want to make it on a wood surface, like our deck, you can put it on just a brick surface like here. So we can make this, like I said, on a deck as long as you have a fireproof surface to make this on. So put this down. We're going to take one of the half bricks, put it in the back here, and just make a little U-shaped. I don't know, Cher, can they see this back here, the way I have this? Now, for this first design, I went up and I got, this is just a gutter guard. You put in your gutters. And what we need to do is we're going to put this right over here. So we just have to cut it right here. So just take some snips. And we're going to cut it right across here. Like I said, this design uses metal. The next one doesn't. Out of this you can make a lot of them. So we're going to do that. We're going to put that right like that. And then we're going to put this brick here. This brick here. Now I put the half brick on this side. I'm going to overlap this just for some strength. I'm going to take the other half brick and put it on the opposite side. It's our second layer. Now the rest will be pretty simple. We're going to put this brick like this. Like this. Like this. And like this. And square it up. We want to try to get these as tight as we can. Now, again, for strength, we see our joints here. I'm going to put the next brick to overlap that joint just for strength. And I'm going to build our chimney now. Again, the joints here just for strength. I'm going to cover that joint up. Joints here, we're going to cover it up. Cover it up. And now we have 2 bricks left over. Now, at this point, we can do a number of things. We can either get some kind of grate or something to put on here. But again, you don't want to put this directly on the top here because we've just closed off our chimney. So we need to have something to set our pot on. If you have an old stove with a grill top, you can use that. I just use 2 bricks like this, and we can set our pan on top of there to cook on. Now, the idea here is, what we're going to do, if you look down on this side here, the entrance here is divided because of our piece of metal. The air is going to go down here, so we're going to feed our sticks on the upper one. So we're going to put our sticks in here. We're going to put our small sticks in first, break these up, put our kindling and tinder in here, and then we could feed our sticks through the top and fill this whole chimney up with sticks, light it to get our fire going. If we need more sticks later on, when we're cooking on top here, we can't feed them to the top anymore because our pots are here. We can feed them in through that top hole, and we'll leave that bottom one for air. The air will come through the bottom hole, feed our fire, and we're going to get that rushing sound of air. So this is the first design. But again, you need that little piece of metal in there. If anyone out here has built a rocket stove like this or something, please write in. Cheryl's manning the camera, so she might be a little bit delayed in getting your text, but that's okay. I'm going to take this apart and show you the second design, and I'll like the second design to show you this actually in action. Let's take this apart. I've used these. You get quite a bit of heat out of these with a very little amount of wood. So they're fun to build. If you want to increase the efficiency by just a few percent, you could get some kind of mud or some kind of chinking and put it between these bricks to seal off any air leaks. That would help a little bit. Not really worth the effort unless you wanted to make this permanent. But you can see it doesn't take long to build, and it doesn't take long to take apart either. The second design takes the same amount of bricks. Don't need this though for the second design. Okay. And you still need the 2 halves. Okay. So we're still gonna, this second design can be built again on the ground or on a pad like this. Since we're gonna like this, we better build it on a pad. I'm gonna turn this just a bit so you can see, instead of having that piece of metal in there, we're going to have the air coming in from the front and our fuel feed coming in from the side. So we're still going to start out the same way. 2 bricks down.
Should we be orienting this to the way the wind is blowing?
It would be best if, right, the mouth would be always facing into the wind. This way the wind would just be helping blow the wind into your stove. Same thing goes with any kind of fire, a teepee fire. If you can always have the wind blowing into your inlet of your fire, all the better. So that's going to be our inlet. This is how we're going to start. So this is going to be where the air is going to come in. We're going to have our fuel feed on this side. So we're going to need the half brick here. This like this. This like this, and this like this. So now we can see this is going to be our air feed here, and this is going to be our fuel feed here. And we're going to build the chimneys the exact same way. This way, overlapping the joints. Reminds me of when I was a kid playing building blocks. I guess we're all kids at heart. Anybody write in yet? Letting us know who. Nobody's writing in. Anybody watching us out there? Maybe they're all taking notes on how to build this. This will be up on our YouTube channel, so. Okay. And we still have our 2 bricks for our pot stand. Okay, so we need to start a fire in here. Now, there's a couple ways to do that. Naturally, we go out and get tinder, and you know, the tinder we can get, the inner bark of tulip poplar, inner bark of cedar, cattails, dead grasses, all that. I like to be practical. That's why I try to do these Facebook Lives. In most situations, we want to do this quick and easy. You're doing this at home. You probably aren't going to take the time to go out and gather natural tinder. A lot of people say, well, I make homemade fire starters. And in a situation like this, there's no reason not to use a fire starter to make things easier. People always come to classes, they say, well, I use dryer lint. And dryer lint works great as long as when you pull the lint out of your dryer, the last load was only cotton things. By that I mean cotton towels. They don't use diapers anymore, but in the old days they would say only use diapers. But cotton towels, things like that. If there was any synthetic blends in there, so you have some polyester mixed in with your cotton, that lint doesn't make very good tinder for fires. So just keep that in mind. If you're going to make fire starters from your dryer lint, make sure the last load that you're taking the lint was only cotton. What I found is a very good fire starter is these Landmann fire starters. What I like about them is they come in these nice flat packets. I carry these in my bug out bag survival kit. They're nice and flat. They burn for about 8 minutes or even a little longer. You just touch a match to this outside cellophane and it catches. I know some of the other fire starters, the fire starters themselves take a couple seconds to actually catch the fire starter on fire. But these like pretty much instantly, and they burn a long time. So when something like this, if you want it to start quick, a Landmann fire starter isn't a bad idea. So that's what I'm going to use. And no, I'm not going to start this with a flint and steel or a bow drill. I'm going to use the Bic lighter. Again, let's be practical on this. So the way we start this, let's take some sticks. We're going to put them in the bottom. You just drop them in like this. Again, you want to start off with small sticks. I like to get a good base of small sticks on the bottom. Again, the bottom hole is for feeding, but since we have the top open, we might as well use it. I'm going to just light the Landmann and put it in there, and you'll see it lights pretty easy. We just light it. We'll just put it in there. And we'll keep loading it up with sticks. Now naturally we want to put sticks on top of the Landmann in the center there. And you can put these sticks in vertically if you want to. Nothing wrong with that. And you can watch the fire. Let it get some of those sticks. And what you want to do is get a real nice bed of coals in there.
Is there any problem with bricks exploding?
I've never had a problem. If you want to use fire bricks, that would be a good thing. The only time bricks are going to explode if they have water in them. Somehow. I've never had a brick explode. But that's a good question. So we're starting to get a good draft going. I can see the flames are starting to get blue in there. What's nice about putting the wood in vertically, you're preheating the wood. And remember, wood has to get up to 780 degrees. So if I put it like this, as the wood goes up the chimney, it's preheating this wood. And in short order, we're going to have some flames, and hopefully we can hear that roaring sound of that rocket stove. And you can see how the smoke's starting to shoot out of there for the heat. Now we're starting to cook. But just for a handful of sticks, you can cook a meal, because again, all the heat from your fire is going to be concentrated in this one area. Should have got some steaks or something to cook out here.
Yep.
Give it a second to really get going. Like I said, it's been raining here for 2 days, so most of this wood is dry, but it's not actually the driest. Now, if you wanted to add air, I can show you what a little bit of air can do for this. And that brings it right up to and you can see how fast the smoke's rising, how much heat we're going to be getting out of that rocket stove. And again, we're doing this right in the middle of our deck. So if we didn't have power, didn't have any kind of fuel, you could very easily cook a dinner, boil water, And again, if we wanted to add fuel, if we had something cooking, add fuel through this port right in here. Put it in. Leave them sticking out. When they burn down, all you have to do is push them in and feed the fire. But that's our backyard stove. So does like I said, does anybody have any experience with these rocket stove? I know on the web, on YouTube, they make some out of tin cans and different things like that. What's nice about this, the bricks actually do hold some of the heat in. So again, you have some residual heat. They act like a nice little heat sink, and reusable. You saw it, easy to take apart.
Terry says he's only seen bricks crack. He's not sure he'd trust them on a wood deck for long term.
Well, again, if you want to do long term on this, I would have probably 2 layers of brick down there. Or better yet, have 1 brick and then have a little air gap between them. Have something, it doesn't have to be much of an air gap, to separate the 2 bricks on the bottom. This way that air gap is going to be your insulation, so that bottom brick is not going to get hot. Same theory as we do when we're talking about shelters in the desert. If you're ever in a desert and you want to have 2 tarps, you want to have 1 tarp and then a space of maybe 6-8 inches and another tarp, and that'll keep you cool. If you only have 1 tarp, it's not going to do you very much good. You'll be pretty hot under 1 tarp, but the 2 tarps, you'll be amazed how you'll drop that temperature. If you get a lot of heat, the bricks will crack, but like anything, it will take a while. I've never had one crack with 1, 2, 3, 4 fires. You can also use fire brick if you wanted to have some in your backyard.
Yeah, Wendy's looking forward to having one on her cement patio.
Cement patio is a real good idea.
So, is there a minimum number of courses of bricks that you have to have?
You want to get a chimney effect, and I found, how high is this? I would say about 18 inches tall. That's about the minimum. You can have it higher. In fact, you could have it real high, so you could be almost standing up cooking if you wanted. There's nothing wrong with that, except structurally you don't want it to be falling down on you. But I would say 18 inches would be about the lowest. And you can have it higher. It's just a chimney. So the heat's going to go up. Now, again, if you don't want to scorch your pan, I'm sure everyone out there knows the old trick about putting dishwashing soap on the bottom of a pan so it doesn't get all black and all. So that would be a good tip if you don't want to get the bottom of your pan black. But if this was a little taller and those flames go down a bit, you're still going to get all the heat up. So you're going to be cooking on the heat and not on the flame. So that'll be another plus if you do make your chimney a little taller. And then you have more bricks, and like I said, if this is in 1 pellet, no big deal. But you're not going to be carrying this around. Now, on that handful of twigs I put in, you can see we have a pretty substantial fire here. We have one heck of a lot of heat coming out of there. And, the amazing thing, you probably heard of wood gasification stoves. They burn a handful of twigs down to fly ash. They get all the energy out of the wood. This burns the twigs down because you have your air coming in under the wood or under the fire. It burns it down to pretty fine ash. You don't have too much wood left or too much of the black coal charcoal left. So it's a pretty efficient stove. Anyone else out there? Any other general questions now that summer's here? We had a great weekend survival class. We had a full class. We had 15 people. We covered all kinds of topics, and we had good weather too. No rain. Next class is going to be in July 2nd 17th, I believe, 17th, 18th, and 19th. And we still have room in that class. It is getting half full, or a little more maybe, but we still have some space in that class if you're interested. And we have plenty of room in the 6-day class. And we're adding some things in this new 6-day class. We're getting some new designs on some tarp shelters, and we're going to introduce those. And we're getting some new tarps in, and some ultra lightweight tarps and different things like that. So we're going to be expanding the shelters, still covering all the primitive shelters, but again, most of you aren't always going to be building debris huts, lean-tos, or different primitive shelters. You might be carrying a tarp, and you might want some options in a high wind condition or rain condition, or just it's a nice evening. What kind of shelter might you want to build? So we're going to give you some information on that too.
Wendy said she'd love the video on the taco tarp shelter.
That's really nice. Brent did a great job on that. He used a 12 by 12 tarp. We're going to be modifying that. We're going to be using 10 by 10 tarps, and we're getting some 9 by 9 tarps. Again, the shelter will be a little smaller, but the 12 by 12 was pretty big. I could almost stand up. I could stand up in that 12 by 12 tarp. So we could probably make it a little smaller. And we are getting an 8.5 by 8.5 tarp, and we'll be selling. It's made of a brand new material. The 8.5 by 8.5 tarp weighs somewhere between 4 and 5 ounces. It's going to be a pricey tarp. But it's going to be the ultimate in tarps if you wanted something that's crazy ultra lightweight. But the other silicon nylon tarps we have are going to be much more affordable, and they'll be the 9 by 9s. So we're going to be having in the class, we'll be playing around with the 9 by 9s, making the taco tarp and a couple other tarp designs.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the taco tarp shelter before, we just posted that on YouTube, so that's out there if you want to check that out.
Yep. And Brent goes step by step on how to put it together and build it. So it might be a fun project if you have kids out there. Get them familiar with tarps, get them familiar with that, and it could even be a backyard camp out now that it's summer. So you know that they're safe, you know that they're having fun, you're getting them familiar with camping out. You can maybe make a small campfire in your backyard if your city allows it. In most cities, if you're having food, they'll allow a backyard fire, so make sure you have some hot dogs or something out there. And make it into an adventure for your kids.
Terry says he loves to camp in the rain. It's a true test of his gear and his skills.
Yes. One other trick about camping, if you're a tent camper, one thing came up at this last class. A lot of people were putting their ground cloth on the ground and pitching their tent on top of it. What I like to do is pitch my tent and put my ground cloth inside the tent. This way, I have my ground cloth inside the tent, and I pull up the sides of the ground cloth up a little bit, so I have like a bathtub inside the tent, so no matter what happens outside, the water can't get me. If you have it outside the tent, if you have it extend past your tent footprint, what you really have is a water collector. So if it rains, the rain comes down your tent, falls on your ground cloth, and since you're in the tent, that's a low point, it rolls right to the center, which is where you're sleeping. A lot of people, though, will tuck it in, which is better, but if you have it inside your tent, you're guaranteed to be at least dry. And your sleeping bag will be dry, which is important. Sleeping in the rain is a lot of fun, especially if you don't have to get up in the morning and you can sleep in, just kind of cuddle up in your sleeping bag and sleep in. Anyone else? Well, that's it for the backyard rocket type stove. Thanks for joining us. If you have any suggestions, something you might want to hear, next time we're going to be out having our class, so we're going to try to do a Facebook Live from our 6-day survival class, so we'll see how that works. Other than that, thanks for joining us. If you have any topics you'd like us to cover, please write in. If you have a class you want to take, please go to survivalschool.com and sign up. Thanks for joining us. You have a good beginning of your summer.